myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true.
Morning, welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. Big welcome to John Gibson today. How are you, John?
I'm good, my friend. I'm good. All the better for the Wolves result, Steve.
Oh, definitely, mate, definitely. And slightly different week this week because of just things getting thrown all over the place and different shows being done at different days. So nice to be able to have a chat with you on your own today. And let's look back at the Wolves game first, mate. I mean, really, we knew it would be tight. You know, but there was, a few predictions were actually from people on the show expecting, 6-goal thrillers, 5-goal thrillers, and what have you. But it was a really tight game, John.
I mean, it doesn't happen with them. It's normally 1-1, isn't it? Every Wolves game in the past has been 1-1, and at 1-0, I was a bit worried that it might be yet another 1-1. It was a tight game. To be truthful, Steve, first and foremost, Newcastle deserved to win. That's the most important thing. A, they did win, and B, they deserved to win. But Wolves were awful. I mean, Wolves were a disgrace, really. To be a side that was going for the top 7, that was going for the Europa League, to show so little ambition as they did. They just wanted a 0-0. They just came here to sit back and frustrate us. And, Jamie Carragher said before the game, he was asked the question, what should Newcastle aim for? We're going to be safe. We're building blocks in there. What should we aim for? And he said, well, they should aim next season to be like Wolves are now. Well, on that display, I don't want to be like Wolves next season because they were well organised, Steve, but they certainly weren't entertainers. They didn't thrill you in any way. I mean, if I'm truthful, and I had to see a comparison because we're right about stepping stones. You're not going to go from fighting relegation to looking like you're going to be the next season pushing for the Champions League. That ain't going to happen. And if you look at stepping stones, the sort of club that we could look at and say that's the next spot is the next team will play Leicester, to be truthful, because in recent times they've unbelievably won the Premier League Championship and the FA Cup. So, and they're a similar size to Wolves, but we deserved what we got there, and I honestly think that we're now safe. Mathematically, no. If you want to do your sums, you're not safe because until it's physically impossible to be caught, that's it. But in the real world, do you see Watford or Norwich, or even Burnley for that matter, going on the sort of 9-match unbeaten run we've just had, and the need to do that to overtake Newcastle? And at the same time, we've got to regularly drop points. In our next 3 games are Leicester, Palace, both at home, and Norwich away. We'll get points there. So I don't think we're in any danger of going down. And that is a massive relief because if you look at the start of the season, mate, when we had Batman and Robin in charge with Ashley and Bruce, it took us 15 games to get out of that mess and get our first win, 16 if you take the League Cup. And we were knocking bets for relegation. If you even think at the beginning of the year, because of the dross in the attitude and the lack of morale that were left by those two, we got knocked out at home to Cambridge from the 3rd flight in the FA Cup when we were second bottom of the league. We looked odds on to go down. No side had beaten the drop after such a horrendous start. And look at us now. So the amount of progress that's been made in such a short space of time under Eddie Howe, under the new owners, under the coaching staff, under the new signings from January. And let's also praise, Steve, the old guys that were already here, the old boys, because they've responded to the challenge set down by Howe magnificently.
Who was your man of the match on Friday?
Great question. Bruno for me. I just think he's a different class, He is much better than what it says on the tin. What it says on the tin is that he's a defensive midfield player. And sure, for a Brazilian, it's lovely to see. He'll get his body in between man and ball. He's strong. He'll hold players off. He's not afraid to bite in the tackle, but also he's comfortable on the ball. He wants to be on the ball. He gets his head up, looks up, and pings it around. He is class. And the incredible thing is, Steve, because of circumstances, this guy's only been a big player so far. That was his home debut. He came to us in January, and his home debut was the first week in April. So, we have been saying that the midfield of Joe Linton, Willock, and Shelby has been so good that this guy can't get in. Then he's gone to the other side of the world and come back, and they said he's tired, etc., etc. For me now, the question is which two gets in with Bruno, not whether Bruno can get in against those three. Bruno's got to be the first one on the. He's loved by the fans. He is our future. He is a glimpse of what we hope to become next season, and I think he's terrific. For me, Steve, he's the real deal, and St. Maximum is the deal who would like to be the real deal.
Funny, I was going to come to St. Maximin next. I mean, obviously, we've spoken about him many times on the show before. He does split fans' opinions. Some people feel that we should sell him in the summer. And we did a live talk in yesterday with Superback and Holly at the Marlborough Social Club, and it was one of the topics of conversation, wasn't it? And you brought up a story about Alan Suddick, which I've spoken to a few Newcastle fans who are of the same kind of era, from that era, and they remember that very well, And just tell the viewers about it.
Yeah, the interesting thing, it's a huge debate, and I can thoroughly understand it, Steve, is do you build a side round San Maximum, or do you say, look, if we are going to make real progress, we sell him? And the comparison I made, because if you're old enough and you've been around long enough, you've seen everything before, because what goes round comes round. And way back in the day, Newcastle's most entertaining player was Alan Suddick. He had all the tricks, all the flicks, and on a good day was nothing short of sensational. He was an absolute crowd pleaser. Joe Harvey had taken over the team, and we were in danger of relegation, like we've been this season. Joe Harvey looked at the situation and decided that if we were going to progress, he would have to sacrifice his best player, who was Suddick. He sold Suddick. He bought 3 players with the money raised from Suddick's sale. He bought 3 players, and Newcastle survived and stayed up that season. Never had a relegation under Joe Harvey, never come close to it after that. But within 2 years of that, Steve, he had built the side that won the European Fez Cup. So he had justified sacrificing who was a wonderful player, Alan Suddick. So easy on the eye, had a great career at Blackpool, who were a good team then, after he left. But Joe Harvey jettisoned Suddick to get Newcastle going forward. And he proved his point by winning a European trophy within a couple of years of doing that. Now, it may well be that for Newcastle to make similar progress, Maxi might have to be sacrificed. Certainly, if they could get 50 million, Steve, which has been talked about in the paper, goodness gracious me, you would pay the taxi fare, wouldn't you? At 50 million, dear, oh dear, oh dear. I mean, it's frustrating, and I'm so disappointed with Maxi, because I've got to admit, when he first came, and I was sitting in the Brucey days, when I would rather have pulled my teeth out with a pair of pliers than watch Newcastle play, it would have been more exciting. The only person that got me off my seat was St. Maximum. And he is still capable of doing that. When he picks up the ball and runs directly defence, you go, because you get the excitement. What's going to happen next? But I watched him in particular against Wolves, because we're in the centre of this debate. And he did get everybody, including me, lifting a little bit when he got the ball. But the end product, the final pass or the shot, was woeful. And it happens with Maxi, and it's happening a lot at the moment. And one thing's for certain, Steve, if he comes on the market, and I know Eddie Howe said, no, he's got a future at Newcastle, etc., etc. Eddie's got to say that at this stage. There's 8 matches left to the end of the season. We've got to finish off the relegation thing mathematically. It's no good saying one of your top players, I'm going to sell him in the summer. Which manager would be mad enough to say that? I'm not saying he is going to sell him, but he wouldn't say anything else at this moment. And, you look at Maxi and you think, where would he go? He wouldn't go to a Champions League club because he wouldn't get the opportunity. Do you think Manchester City would try to buy him, or Liverpool would try to buy him? The sort of club that would go from something like Aston Villa, Steve, where they would think, this fella's an entertainer, our crowd need to be entertained, they like him, you can see him flitting in there. But he wouldn't go to one of the established elite. You couldn't see him going in Liverpool's front three or Manchester City's front three straight off. Grealish wasn't able to do that when he come for 100 million. That wouldn't happen. And yet, bless him, he's got so much faith in his own ability. He talks about winning the Ballon d'Or. Well, I think 2 balloons and a goldfish is more than he's going to win at the moment. But that's it. I mean, I'm being a bit harsh on him just because he frustrates me. Chris Wood doesn't frustrate me because Chris Wood plays to the best of his ability. You feel with St. Maximum that there is something else there if he could get his head screwed on. And it's going to be a great debate, and his future is going to be decided by what he does in the next 8 games.
Yeah, you've mentioned Chris Wood, so let's talk about him. Great to see him get a goal on Friday night. I mean, he had one chalked off for an offside, which of course, was correctly ruled out by VAR. But the fact that he was willing to step up, pick the ball up, and take that penalty tells you a lot about the kid's character. And I know that he's not a 20-goal striker. I know that we feel, a lot of people feel that the money that we spent on him was a little bit too much. But I'm pleased to say that my faith in him, and the fact that I always felt that he would be vital in this run-in, and that he would get a couple of goals which would be vital match winners to help us get away from the relegation zone, has proved to be true. And it told you a lot about his character. I think on Friday night he was a match winner.
He showed a lot of bottles, Steve. There's absolutely no question about that, because when you've been through the run he's been through, when you sign for a club where it's completely built on number 9 legends, we talk about number 9 legends. Everybody from way back with Hughie Gallagher, through Jackie Milburn, through Supermac and Alan Shearer. This is a club of number 9 legends. When you sign for a club like that and you score 1 goal in your first 10 games and you've never notched at home in front of the faithful, the pressure is on you. There's no question whatsoever about that. You saw his elation when he scored the goal that was wiped out by VAR. And incidentally, what a shame it was wiped out, because what a build-up with Bruno. Lovely back heel from Almiron. And Woods lying on the deck, as it happens, when the ball come across, and still managed to swivel and shove it in. And he wasn't the guy offside, so he was very unlucky when that didn't happen. He won the penalty in the way every good centre-forward should win the penalty. When the ball slipped through, you think, you go to the keeper, come on, you come to me, and I'll either score or it'll be a penalty because I'll be over the top. And it was completely legit, etc., etc. He invited him in like a matador would with a cape, and then went, ole, I've got a penalty. To have the guts to take that penalty when you're on the sort of run that he's been on goal-wise was massive, and it won the game for us, and I was delighted for him. I still think long-term, Steve, that if we are going to go somewhere, he's going to be sitting on the bench rather than be the centre-forward, because we've got a massive problem up top, simply because Wood, harsh as it may be, doesn't score enough goals. Callum Wilson isn't fit often enough. In Dwight Gale, I've seen more of Lord looking on Shergob with a dodo walking down Northumberland Street. I don't know what's happened with him, but he's yesterday's news big time. So he's got to be sold in the summer. Wilson will stay and Wood will stay, but you can't rely on them for a particular reason. We've got to go out and buy a striker that'll score goals if we are going to continue to make progress. And that is not to say that Wilson and Wood won't have something to contribute next season, but they mustn't be the number one man.
Yeah, I think you're right, mate. I think you're right. And I think there's going to be some big changes coming in the summer. Interesting question here from John Askew. He says, morning, everyone. John, could Bruno prove to be Miggy Almiron's footballing saviour on Tyneside? He said there were glimpses on Friday of the two connecting nicely. And I mean, there was that offside goal, was a lovely back heel from Miggy. They were on the same wavelength. Is there a potential there for those to link up? That's what John's asking.
It's a good question, actually. And if I was Almiron, I'd be begging for that to be so. I mean, I had it checked twice. I don't know about you, Steve, but I saw that back heel. And I had it checked twice. It was Almiron, bless him, that did that, because that's a Brazilian touch, isn't it? You know, what he did. It was wonderful. And that's why it was so sad that the goal was chalked off. Almiron's so willing. I mean, he is such a willing guy. There is, you know, a thing to be said that don't leave the doors open at the Gallagher end when we're attacking down there, because he would run straight out the back of the doors and down into Northumberland Street, because that's what he's all about. He's quick, but he's willing. His agent is flying in. His agent, who, quite frankly, I think Miggy needs like a hole in the head. Because remember, in the past couple of seasons, Steve, he's always stirred things up, like saying, oh, he's wanted by this club, that club, the other club. He's not certain if he's going to stay, etc., etc. I don't think that publicly he does him any favours. But he's in to talk to Eddie Howe and perhaps Amanda about what Miggy's future is. And quite frankly, if I was Howe, I would say Miggy's future will be decided by Miggy over the next 8 games. Not now. But he could. I mean, Bruno is capable of saving a lot of careers at St James's Park. He's capable of making Shelby look like a proper all-round player. He's capable of sustaining the new form of his big mate, fellow Brazilian, Joe Linton. He's capable of doing things for Almiron, or certainly the two wide men. He will be infectious and has the ability to have a dip at everybody. There's a lot of big decisions going to have to be made in the summer, and Sam Maximum and Almiron, who are two of our biggest signings of recent times, are two of the major decisions that's got to be made.
Yeah, I would agree, mate, as well. It's an interesting question, that, Johnson. Thanks for chipping in. Peter Robertson says, morning, chaps. Realistically, I think we're safe, but looking forward, what do you see as a realistic goal for next season, John?
Great question. How ambitious can we be? Well, we've certainly got to look at being between 10 and 7. And if we get as good a summer in the transfer market as we had in January, because I thought we had a terrific January in the transfer market. When you think of Trippier, when you think of Byrne, when you think of Bruno, I mean, they've been absolutely outstanding signings. If we have a good summer, then we can flirt very closely with 7, which would be a massive step forward from what we've had this year. We've got to start off well at the beginning of the season and banish any thoughts of why. I've got a stiff neck, you know, through looking backwards to see how close we are to the bottom of the table for the last 14 years. It would be nice to look upwards, Steve, wouldn't it? And that is hopefully what we'll do next year. I think we've got to look to finish between 10 and 7 next season and have a good run in the Cup. And I'm sick of saying good runs. What I'm actually saying is have a real dip to try to win the League Cup or the FA Cup, because they are possible. And we have never had a real go at those two competitions. When I look back, Steve, you know what staggers me? When I look back and think we haven't won a trophy since 1969, in Europe, in 55 domestically with the FA Cup. I look back and think, how on earth did we not win one of the domestic trophies under either Kevin Keegan or Bobby Robson? You know, when you think about it, the sides that they put together that finished second top of the Premier League under KK and third top under Bobby Robson, we ought to have won one of the domestic trophies without a shadow of doubt. And I think we've got to target one of those, not to have a run in it, because quite frankly, a run in it's pointless.
Yeah,
to try to win.
John, I think we're accentuating the positives, I think, on here, because, you know, yesterday's results, does it mean that survival's still an issue, says John? You know, it is tight. I mean, if we can beat Leicester next weekend, you know, we go level on points with them, and they're ninth. I think we've come to the mindset of looking up, not down. And I think, you know, John mentioned it at the start of the programme. The next three fixtures Newcastle have are all, games which Newcastle really could get something out of. So I think we're looking up, not down. John is the honest answer to that. John also says he's been lucky to be a farmer nearly 50 years, and in that time we've achieved at least one double every season. Could this be the first season a double doesn't happen? I don't know. I'm not statistically aware of that, but I'm sure a stat on a Friday would be able to find out. But
I wasn't, Steve, but I wasn't. That's one of the stats that I haven't been looking at. But it's a very, very good point. And you know why it is possible? Because, as I just said, at the beginning of the season, it took us 15 matches to win our first Premier League game. So you've got to think that that's wiped out sort of almost half a season to be able to do the double. Thinking off the top of my head, and I can't think of anything in great detail at the moment, but the obvious one jumps out to me is that when we did beat that record of all those games without a win, we did it against Burnley. So if we win at Burnley on the last day, there's a double.
Yeah, exactly. I think somebody's just made that point in the chat as well. I think it was John. He's answered his own question, I think. But Blue Rhythm Boy says, interested to see how the mentality is now that we are nearly safe. Should be aiming to finish as high as possible to attract more players in the summer. I think the mentality is there for all to see. I think the dressing room photograph again yesterday was particularly interesting, because Eddie Howe's face in that one was of sheer jubilation. It shows you how important that win was. Some of the other photos people have pointed out, he's quite straight-faced, but it was an important win against Wolves. Mark Graham, morning. He says, does John think that recruitment in the summer should be based on personality and attitude along with ability?
I think that is an absolute given. What has happened in the past, you can look at players, and maybe you would say Sam Maximin, maybe you would say Adam Ben Arthur, maybe you would say Lauren Robert. I'm not suggesting there was anything seriously wrong with those guys, but maybe they believed in some players believe in their ability so much that they don't think they've got a graft or they've contribute in other ways, because my ability will get me through, and then that's enough. I've done my bit of the job. But teams are only as good as your attitude. You know what's terrific at the moment to see Trippier, even when he's been on crutches, at the away games. Not just in Dubai for the week's jolly, but at away games, helping the side, stirring the side, giving them the sort of leadership they need. We want players like that. We want players with the right mental approach. If you look at the Manchester United side under Ferguson, that did so well winning everything, they had two of the finest wingers possible in Giggs and Beckham. Attacking sides, the use of the ball by both of them in a very different way, because Beckham was all about Shelvey sort of balls, but happened much more often than Shelvey, and Giggs just had everything. But they also worked back, both of them tracked back, a thing you wouldn't find Sam Maximin do. But for all of the biggest names in the country at that time, Giggs and Beckham would run back towards our own goal to get the ball and ends it. And you've got to have the right sort of attitude in the play. And that's the lovely thing that you think Eddie Howe puts so much attention to. You can't see. He is bought in January players with a great attitude, hasn't he? Dan Burn, Trippier, Target, Bruno, and Chris Wood. People with a very, very good attitude. People so good off the field that it reflects on the field. You've got to buy those sort, not show ponies.
Yeah, exactly, mate. I would agree with you on that as well. Great question. Dean says, morning, lads. I think Almiron would link up better with Bruno if he was playing more central as a number 10, with Murphy on the right and ASM on the left, and drop Shelvey.
Interesting. I like people like Dean because it's quite revolutionary. I presume that it also means you've dropped Ryan Fraser, who didn't get a mention there. If you play Murphy and you play Almiron as a 10, you take Shelvey out. There's a lot of major decisions got to be made in the summer because, as well as getting better players in the team, who do you keep to sit on the bench, and who do you say, I'll take a few quid for that? Do you take a few quid for some Maximum? Do you take a few quid for Almiron? You certainly sell Gale. So you decide what you're going to do with Sean Longstaff. Because it's not just all about your 11, it's about your bench as well. But there's a lot of major decisions to be taken. And I do believe that in a few cases, that decision hasn't been taken, and players can decide for themselves over the next few games whether they've got a future here or not. It also depends, Steve, doesn't it, on who you get in. If you can get quality in, if you get a quality wide man, you might think that somebody outside of Murphy, Fraser, Almiron and St. Maximum can go. But if you don't get a quality wide man, you might have to keep a couple extra of those. So it depends on how successful you are in the market, who goes out.
Yeah, Blue Rhythm Boy says Wolves swarmed ASM and yet he still managed to create. That pass he fizzed across the box should have been finished. However, I will say the volley he blazed over was poor, still a class act for me. Vince says, morning Stephen John, it was a great show at the Marlborough Social Club yesterday. Also great to meet you all. I thought you were great people, but even better in real life. That's very kind of you, Vince. Nice to meet you, mate.
Absolutely so, absolutely. The one thing just on Maxi, and I don't want to sound overcritical because I've been a great supporter of him, because when I needed a shot in the arm during the dark days where I lived down a coal mine under Brucey, he gave me the odd shaft of light, which I absolutely adored. But the ball he fizzed across the goal that was mentioned by one of our listeners there, he struck it too hard, Steve. It went across like an exocet missile. If he'd taken a little bit of pace off it, somebody might well have reached it. I mean, having said that, this guy's capable of going against Leicester and producing a bit of magic, and we win the game, and we'll all be talking about St. Maximum and the way we're talking about Bruno. The trouble is, I think he does it less and less at the moment. It may well be that he'll be better in a good team. There's no question about that. But will he still be a luxury? It's difficult for players. If you talk about Chris Wood, for example, Stephen, for a centre forward, St. Maximum's a nightmare because he gets the ball, he runs at defenders, and you're just waiting, right, knock it in, and I'm there. So you make your run as a centre forward, and what does St. Maximum do? He checks out. He checks out and goes back this way. So you've got to stop, readjust, he goes again, you make your run, and the ball doesn't come in this time either. It's very difficult to read a player like St. Maximum. As Supermac was saying yesterday when we did this show, Steve, at the Marlborough, and has said to me many times, when he played at Arsenal, Supermac, and when he played for England, when he was at Newcastle, Alan Ball was behind him. And Ball used to say, when I get the ball, if the pass doesn't come with my first touch, it'll come with my second. I'll never have a third. So in other words, look for it on the first. If it doesn't come, check and make your run again, because this time it is coming. Centre forwards need to know Hibby was capable of doing that with Supermac. Centre forwards need to know, Alan Shearer needed to know all the time when the ball's coming. And Maxi, bless him, is the sort of player, when you look back, I don't know what you feel, Steve, but when I look back on Newcastle United players, I think Hatton Ben Arthur, what a wonderful talent. And he scored a couple of sensational goals. Can you remember them? It was in about a 3-week period.
Blackburn in the FA Cup.
Yes, I mean, absolutely sensational. Lauren Robert, wonderful, some of the free kicks, some of the things he did. But I also remember them and I think, what might you have been? You'll be remembered for your little cameos. You'll be a sort of the sort of guy fans remember, but you didn't make the most of your talent. Other players squeeze every inch of that talent out, and you can't get to the end of your career, and you must look back and have a few what ifs. What if I'd been able to do a bit more? What if I had done a bit more? And I don't want Maxi to fall into that category where at the end of his career, he's saying to himself, what if? Because if he wants to win the Ballon d'Or, he's also got to play for France. And he's got to start winning things here. And to do that, he's got to be consistent. And that's the main thing that's missing from his game, consistency.
Yeah, consistency is the key. There's no doubt about it for ASM, and it's an enigma. He's a maverick. He's somebody who certainly splits the fans' opinions. And I think if we could get the best out of him for the team, then I think genuinely, he'd be worth keeping a hold of and building the team around. It's a big decision that in the summer for Newcastle United. There's no question about that.
Absolutely massive. I mean, you know what you're going to get with Bruno. You know his ability, you know his work rate, you know what you're going to get with Big Dan Burn. Size of a frying pan, his heart's the size of a frying pan. He's massive. He's a lot like Frank Brennan used to be in the great Newcastle side that won the cup in the 50s regularly. He's got that sort of mentality and that sort of height and determination. You know what you're going to get with these guys. You sometimes wonder what you're going to get with people like Maxi. But, maybe the penny drops. I mean, Joe Linton's got a new lease of life. Shaw's got a new lease of life. Shelby's got a new lease of life. There is players that the penny is suddenly dropped with. Will it drop with Sam Maximin?
Big shout out to our sponsors. As always, Spider Miner gives you worldwide coverage. They are the only cryptocurrency miner that can mine 5 different cryptocurrencies at the same time whilst using virtually no energy, and it's VPN protected. You can buy yours now at www.miner.spidervpn.org. Thanks also to skipsandbins.com. Telephone 0800 25 45 25 3. Email inquiries at skipsandbins.com. Website www.skipsandbins.com. Easy, contract free, and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Thanks also to L&G Family Funeral Directors 0191 389 7245, and to Garden of Eden Dispensary, CBD hemp and cannabinoid specialists www.gohd.com. Thanks also to Arcot Interiors based at the bottom of Heaton Road. For all your kitchen necessities, Google the lads at Arcot Interiors. They will give you a reasonable quote. And thanks to qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Walls and Newcastle, and the guys who run our website at NUFCmatters.com. Thanks to Cleekai, meet the new game over screen, drop into a Clearrun device near you, available on Apple Store, Google Play, and at clearrun.games. And Jab Signature, jabsignature.co.uk, and Media Arts for all their help on the video side of things. If you want to subscribe, hit the Newcastle Legends logo on the bottom right-hand corner, and you can subscribe for free. Still 7 shows a week, and a couple more besides. Hit the thumb up under the video, it's very important, which likes the video for us and gains us a little bit more on the algorithm on YouTube. Hit share to your social media. Drop into the comments box to speak to like-minded Newcastle fans. If you want to listen to us as a podcast, we are available on iTunes, Spotify, and all podcast providers. Don't forget, you can become a member as well of NUFC Matters, and you get a scarf, a pen, a cup, and a membership card and entry into the monthly draw. Just put your phone over the QR code or go to nufcmatters.com and look for membership. If you do subscribe, don't forget as well, go to the website. You can get a free car sticker. John from QTech gave a few of them out yesterday. And don't forget as well, the next home game, you can meet Malcolm, Supermac, of course, at Dog and Parrot pre-match and post-match. Malcolm will be there to give his views on the game against Leicester. We support the food bank on the show as well. NUFC fans, foodbank.co.uk is the website to go to make a donation, a virtual donation to the match day bucket, which is operational 365 days of the year. And don't forget, Newcastle United's women's team are playing at St James's Park on the 1st of May. Tickets are £3. And this is the first time that the ladies team have played at the ground. So well worth going along and giving the ladies team some support. Okay, back to your questions. And Alan's put, my only argument is to buy a player in first. He says, just as good as the SM before we sell him. He says, I've seen this before, sell and get inferior players. Beardsley, Waddle, Gaza come to mind. Vince Smith, going back to the Chris Wood conversation, says, I think Wood is the man we need at this time and has given his all for the shirt. Wood will be a squad player next season, says 2 in 2020. How much is that goal worth, Steve and John, if we stay up? 1 point, far more than the 25 million. Great point, that, Alan. And you know, that's what I've said. He's come in and done a job. Doug Hall, not the Douglas Hall, though, says ASM frustrates me like Shelby did before. The penny dropped for him, which is interesting. John Ball, morning, mate. I will get back to you. I got your message on Facebook, mate, so I will get back to you on that this week. Morning, Stephen John. With talk with Phillips from Leeds, can you see that as a replacement for a current centre midfielder, possibly Shelby? Yeah, Calvin Phillips from Leeds, John. Somebody who seems to be linked quite heavily at the moment.
Yeah, a good player who came out of nowhere. Him in Rice with England, if you remember, in tandem, came out of nowhere and become superstars, if you like. The difficulty probably is, and any player can be got if you flash the cash, but the difficulty is that he loves Leeds. He's got a passion for Leeds in the way that Dan Burn has for Newcastle United and always has had. So and they look as if they're going to get out of with the new manager and the results they get, and the players they've got, they look as if they're going to get out of the relegation thing. So he may well decide to stay and only be tempted to leave if a Champions League side comes in. Would he be willing to buy into Newcastle? You would hope so, because there is a terrific future at Newcastle and greater than there is at Leeds. I would certainly like to see him, and he would be an improvement alongside Bruno. There's absolutely no question about that. I mean, you can improve most positions. If somebody says, what do we want in the summer, Steve? In general, not specifically, then you've got to say we need a centre forward. You've got to say we need a centre half, because, you know, is Shaw going to be there? Do they need a backup? We possibly need somebody to go alongside Byrne. We've certainly got to get a left back. We've either got to sign Target permanently or sign another left back, because we're short there. And you can improve in the middle of the park to go alongside Bruno. So, and I think they'll get a goalkeeper. Keep Dubrovnik, and probably sell Darlow and Woodman. But there's improvements to be made in the summer. Phillips is definitely an improvement if we could get him.
Yeah, I would agree. I think goalkeeper is a priority as well. I think they need somebody who can, you know, be a good number two in competition to Dubravka. Dubravka needs competition, and if he gets injured, then we are, you know, we're up the creek without a paddle.
They won't stay with Darlow as the backup. And if I was Darlow, I'd be at the stage in my career, coming up 30, where I wouldn't want to do Steve Harper. And I mean, Steve Harper ought to have played so many more games, football league games in his career than he did when he was back up to Shea Given for so long. He might well have got an England cap if he'd been playing regularly, and his loyalty cost him. And I don't think Darlow ought to stick around. I don't think we would want him to stick around. Woodman showed so much promise playing for England at all the age group levels. I don't think he's going to make that major break. to be the number one keeper at Newcastle. So I think you would sell Woodman, you would sell Darlow, and you would buy another keeper in.
Yeah, I would agree. Roger Cook, he says, John, if we were to sign Phillips, could that be an opportunity for Bruno to become more of an attacking midfielder?
It probably could. His game is exactly what he does now, which is, I think it's wrong. And what it's, I said early on is much better than what it says on the tin, Steve, because what it says on the tin is that he's a defensive midfielder. I think that's almost an insult to him because he's got so much more than that. It's a wonderful thing that he's so good defensively because we don't think of Brazilians as defensive players. We think of them, but his body strength is enormous. He gets body between man and ball and holds off people. He can snap into a tackle, which is terrific to win the ball, but he's an all-round player because he can then get his head up, go forward. He's comfortable on the ball. He demands the ball, and he can use it well. And yes, get better. We think we've got good midfielders at the moment because when he first come, we decided that the three guys that were in, Shelby, Willock and Joe Linton, he couldn't get a start. Very crafty, very good. He sat there, he saw the pace of the game, he had a look round. It didn't do him any harm. But now he's got to be the number one on the side, and it's what others can play with him. And let us be truthful, Shelby and Willock, for example, you can improve upon. They're decent, but you can improve upon them. There's no question about that. And Newcastle could well do that this summer. And Phillips alongside Bruno, I think, would be quite something. And it would be the way Phillips was with Rice at England level, with Declan Rice.
Yeah, John says, spot on, John, in the same way Woodgate made Bramble look respectable. Bruno can bring the best out of mediocre colleagues. Yeah, he is a different level. Is Bruno the new Rob Lee, says Kevin? Yeah, I mean, Rob Lee, best pound-per-pound strike midfielder we've ever signed for me, if not one of the best players we've ever signed. David Knight says, we need a top-quality striker and a right winger, but who will it be? We wanted Diaz, but unfortunately he's at Liverpool now. Jersey Mark says, how many players do you guys expect to leave in the summer? And how many players do you expect to come in? It's a good question, isn't it, John? I mean, there are players going to go out. Kieran Clark, I think, will be gone. I think that's probably something that's already close to completion anyway. I think there's Dwight Gale, of course, will be gone. I think Fernandez will go. I still think there's question marks over maybe the careers of Paul Dummett at Newcastle now. But yeah, it's. How long is a piece of string?
They've got to think of Darlow will go, Woodman will go. There's a lot that actually have to go because they've been around for too long and they're not good enough. But as we said, it all depends on who they get in. You must get in first before you let go. It's no good getting rid of San Maximum and Almiron, for example, in the first month of the close season and say we can get better than that, and then fail to do deals to get better than that, then we've exposed ourselves badly. You've got to hold on to them, bring the new guys in, and then let them go out. But I think there'll be a big turnover this summer, and that ought to be. That's not being harsh, that's being factual. In this world, if you stand still in football, you're actually going backwards. So you've got to keep improving, and we have got a lot of steps to make up on some other clubs, and it's got to start right now this summer. And if we need to top up the transfer pot, because these guys in charge of this club aren't going to be taken for a ride. They've proved that with the two centre halves that wanted to come here and then didn't during January. They've proved it with the director of football with Brighton trying to wring them dry, and they've said, no, we're not that stupid. And they're quite right. It's offensive to think they've got barrels of money, they don't care about it, just let them splash it out, and everything's paid far too dear for. So they're not going to do that. So if we need to top up the pot that's already there, people like San Maximum is where you're going to top up your pot. Are you going to top up your pot with Miggy, for example? Well, you're going to get a few quid, and if you take that as being a plus, then fine. But they're not going to get that 20 million or more back. I don't that they paid from. I don't think that would happen. But whatever was raised was raised. But we have to be active in the summer. And what I used to hate, Steve, under Ashley, was he only got active in the last fortnight of the summer. Can you remember? 9 times out of 10, we went through the summer without a signing whatsoever. And then you don't know who you can let go because you're waiting for who comes in. Let's be on the front foot. In January, we were on the front foot straight away, weren't we?
Yeah.
With signings. Let's be on the front foot. Get deals done early in the window. This business of scraping together right in the last few days and then taking a couple on loan is so frustrating and is so negative. We don't want to go down that route.
No, rumours today we're in for Jared Bowen. It's in the Chronicle. It's a story that the Chronicle are running. Mozza says, what's your thoughts on that? I mean, he's a centre forward, Premier League proven. Is that an improvement on what we've got?
The West Ham boy?
Yeah.
Yeah. We almost got him, if you remember, before because Bushi fancied him, haven't had him at all. Mm-hmm. And he got a narrow escape there, didn't he? For Bushi. I mean, would he leave West Ham to come to us? It depends where West Ham end up. I mean, they've done terrific, haven't they? I mean, to come to us at this stage. Eventually, everybody would be wanting to come to us. But there again, you've got to say that we can't be negative about how attractive Newcastle are. Trippier was an England international, had played in a final for England, had just won La Liga, and he come running to Newcastle. Bruno was a Brazilian international, and by the way, didn't the so-called big clubs that are in the Championship miss a trick? Arsenal in particular, in the Champions League or on the verge of the Champions League, Arsenal in particular were tracking Bruno and dithered, and we got him. What a bad move that was by Arteta, because this fella is real class. But if you can sign the likes of Trippier with his background and the likes of Bruno, you can get players right at the top, and they will be willing to come because both bought in big time to the vision, not just of Eddie Howe, but of the board to where they want Newcastle to go. They bought into that big time, both of them, and that's good.
Colin Wilson says John Brighton are apparently holding out for mega bucks. I think it's around about 5 million to allow the release of Dan Ashworth from gardening leave. Will our owners bend and pay, or will they wait till October? I mean, I just don't see the point of paying for the guy when we can get him for nothing in October, and I don't think anything is going to be a major issue, is it, John?
No, I think what happened in an ideal world, Steve, we would like the guy to have been in so that after we play the last game at Burnley, we say, right, off we go with the guy in charge here, and let's go and do our business this summer. It looks as if that might not happen. You get the feeling with Brighton, they might be a little bit peeved at the fact that Dan Burns come up here and been sensational, and now we've taken this guy, and they might be a little bit miffed by all that, so they're digging their heels in. They can't keep him long term. He's resigned. He's on gardening leave. He is leaving. It might be that Newcastle offer a couple of mil, and eventually they say, crikey me, it's going to be a couple of mil, or they're going to wait until the end. We may as well let them go now and have the couple of mil. But I think they're right to not fall for this, because the word goes round football, Steve, and we were seen as the richest club in the world when these come in. And if we weren't careful, we were going to make a word for our own back, weren't we? Where you put 2 notes on every fee for everybody that you want, whether it's a director of football, a manager, or player. And that's a bad route to go down. So, yeah, if they're not going to see the light and come to a compromise in a couple of months' time, let us wait. It doesn't mean that privately a fella, while he's doing his garden, can't go on the phone and tell Newcastle who to go and sign and who he's looked at. It doesn't matter that he's in the garden. He's still got a telephone, hasn't he, Steve?
Yeah, exactly. JJ says, he's asking me a question. Do you think the Gallagher expansion will cover the Strawberry Place like the Milburn Walkway, as it was going to be connected to the casino and hotel under Shepherd? 100%, mate. Listen, I think they will be doing... They'll be looking at this now. I don't think stadium expansion is something which will be a priority at this moment in time, but I think it's part of the grand plan. A lot of it depends on planning permission and what they see. I mean, I heard a rumour yesterday. I was out with Steve Hasty. We're out for Stu Penman's birthday after we'd done the show at the Marlborough Social Club, and we've heard that there is a potential for what a group like a bar and restaurant situation, which is on just coming off Northumberland Street, down to where the old Odeon used to be, the Stack. That is now being taken away from there. There's going to be new buildings being, put up and erected there in the next couple of years. But the talk is that the Stack could get moved to behind the Gallagher for the time being, on the car park, on the old car park. So that would be great, I think, having almost like this village of bars and restaurants right next to the ground. I think it would be great. But yeah, I think there will be expansion. I think the priority will be the first team, because you have to put money into the first team, strengthening the under-23s, then obviously giving them a good training facility. So I think the training facility would be next. And this is only my opinion, not something I've heard. Then I think ground expansion. If the team's playing well and winning and competing, and dare I say it, win that elusive trophy, you're going to need more seats. So I think that will be part of the plan. What the plan is and how they're going to do it, I'm not sure, JJ, but it will be interesting. Colin says, we have 2 Brazilians on our side. What is the chance of bringing in a third? Coutinho. Now, that would be massive. I'd love to see Coutinho at St James's Park. It's dreamland. I think the connection he's got with Gerrard, though, is rather special, and I think it would take a monumental change of mind from his part to bring Coutinho here.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. They're so close. They're like Siamese twins. I mean, the only hope we've got there is that they keep getting done like they were done yesterday, Aston Villa 4-0 at home. But by the way, that Spurs who did us for 5, Song and Kane are on song at the moment, aren't they? I mean, the massacred Villa, and look, knocking bets for 4th place now. So, and that's the one major blip we've had defensively, isn't it? A 9-match unbeaten run, then we lost 2 against Chelsea and Everton, but both were 1-0. Then we fell back into the bad old days, conceding 5 with Spurs. But Song and Kane are special, aren't they? Some people smiled at me when I said that they are, prior to the game against Newcastle, they're as good as any partnership in the Premier League, including what you have at Liverpool and Man City. But when you see 5 against Newcastle and 4 against Villa, and you see Song scoring goals like that, and Kane looks like an absolute quality midfielder as well as a quality centre forward, doesn't he? I mean, his ability on the ball and his long range passing is absolutely superb. And at the moment, they're a delight to watch. And they've got a manager who's wildly enthusiastic, gets the crowd going. The Spurs crowd love Conte. And that works great. But Coutinho, yeah, I would take him if he fancies coming up here. It's nice on the time. He might enjoy himself.
And his last night like Phoenix. Cake.
Absolutely. Especially Christmas when the window's on.
Karen says, have you seen the Leeds team dressing room photo from yesterday? Copycats, perhaps, knowing how it promotes team spirit. Yeah, I have seen it, and they're definitely copying. There's no doubt about that. We need to spot on Gibbo, says Simon, buy what we need before selling. Alan Thompson says, get Mitch on the case, John and Steve. Is he talked to Phillips recently out in the Middle East? ASAP. Yeah, he did. Calvin Phillips, was out there and did bump into Mitch. That's true. I don't think there's going to be wholesale changes. Howard said many times he likes this group, says Blue Rhythm Boy. Paul says, get shot of Almiron, just runs and there's no end product. If we could get Bowen in, I'd flog Maxi tomorrow because we need a decent striker against Wolves with pace. We would have beaten them by a few. Brian says, John Gibbo certainly knows his football and the tune inside out. A brilliant chat. Thank you very much. And Paul says, Bowen would be a high fee. I can see at least £70 million from West Ham. Probably wouldn't want to sell him to us. And Roger says, we should wait until October. Steve Nixon is doing a great job with transfers. Never thought we'd hear Newcastle fans saying that after the original feeling around Joe Linton. And Alan McMurty says, Bruno looks a level above most of our first team. Alan says, we've stood still for the last 14 years, John. We are due a clear out. Sorry, there is no sentimentality with me. Anthony also says, talking about the flags, Could the stadium announcer mention to leave all the flags in the ground so nobody takes them home before the teams are announced? That would be perfect. Yeah, there's a lot of people, unfortunately, keep taking the flags home. And I got an inbox of one guy who's going, please, can you just let people know that I didn't know and I will bring it back. It's the first time I've been to the game, blah, blah, blah. So,
there's more flags around Tyneside than the Ukraine flags at the moment, isn't there? The war flags are disappearing at a rapid rate of knots. They are brilliant. And did you see Amanda's husband with the flag?
Yeah, it was great, wasn't it? It was absolutely brilliant to see me and Dad doing that, actually. And there we go. There is the photograph of it. That just shows you what a complete juxtaposition from owners of Mike Ashley, who was hardly seen at the ground, or when he was holding a pint of lager and necking it in the director's box. And me and Dad standing there waving his flag proudly with a nice club shirt and tie on. That's what you want to see. So proud to.
But they've been very good at that, Steve, haven't they? They've been very clever. They've got their finger on the pulse. They've used it, in my opinion, they've used the 18 months or however long it took, Steve, to get the thing past the Premier League, to find out exactly, and this is true, to find out exactly what the mood is on Tyneside, what the ordinary fan wants, the sort of communication, the cleverness, the caring, etc., etc. They found all that out, and they've done it brilliantly. And the attention to detail at Newcastle at the moment, with the owners doing the right things to help bond the situation, and Eddie Howe doing the right things, like he knows every player's wives' names, their kids' names, when their birthdays are. Small things. But out of small acorns, great trees grow. And that is happening with Newcastle United. Players love that because there's a caring element there. And at the same time, he's not just a softie. He might look like Alan Jones and on the telly, but he's got a bit of steel inside him. And he said after the 5-1 against Spurs, no more Mr. Nice Guy. He told a few home truths. And that showed again in the way we pulled our socks up against Wolves. Not a pretty match, not a great display, but a great result. We would have lost that match sometime in the past. We won it this time.
Yeah, Mozza says, what about Bruno's mate Paqueta as our third Brazilian? Roger says he can't wait for the window. Colin says, can Aston Villa afford Coutinho's wages? It could be a sticking point if Villa want to buy him. Also, I would imagine he talks to Bruno on a regular basis, so fingers crossed. Geordie Tupalite, again about Paqueta, just says, Bruno's mate Paqueta's quality and a proper number 10. He'll be cheaper than Phillips or any other English player. Derek says, Paqueta should be our third signing after Target and Lingard. So yeah, Paqueta, again, I mean, I've watched him. He is quality, and I think that will be a great acquisition.
And sometimes going outside of the Premier League, you get more bargains. You can get more bargains. I mean, we did right, Steve, in my humble opinion, in January to buy players with Premier League experience because they had to hit the ground running. Game after game after game was coming up, and we needed to survive. We signed somebody in May. They've got all the pre-season training, the pre-season matches to bond in. We needed players, and everybody outside of Bruno had vast Premier League experience. Target and Dan Burn, and even Trippier, when he was with Burnley and Spurs, he knew exactly what the Premier League was about. We needed that for a mid-season window, not so much in the summer. It's going to be exciting, and I'm actually not only looking forward to it, but I actually look forward to going to matches now, Steve. The wonderful thing is, I used to go to matches with trepidation. Yeah. I had a black armband ready to slip onto the left arm when we were 1 down. And now I go there and I'm feeling quite elated. I'm looking forward to the banter before the game. I'm looking forward to the atmosphere and the war flags. And I'm looking forward to the chat at half time. It's good fun. It's what it used to be. And football is supposed to be entertainment, and it's entertainment again instead of being purgatory. We can't give it up. It's in our blood. Newcastle United is a cradle-to-grave situation. We can't give it up. It's inside us. But isn't it good to actually be able to enjoy it again? There's something even when it's raining.
You wore a black armband and I was the vicar. So we've both done that. Paul Oxley says, we'll finish with this, John. Just a quick prediction. It's something which doesn't concern us. It probably will in seasons to come. A result between City and Liverpool. But who do you see winning the big game today?
It's wonderful to be able. It's great because unless it's a draw, it's the decider, isn't it? The team that wins the title. And I think both of them are a class above anything else in the Premier League. You think of Chelsea being third. Yes, they got 6 at Southampton yesterday, but they got done by Brentford at home, and they got done in Real Madrid, got done badly. And then after that, we're down to Spurs and etc., etc. I've got a feeling that Manchester United won't lose today. I wouldn't mind
Man City.
seeing... Sorry, Man City. Oh, Manchester United will always lose.
Yeah.
Man City, yes. I've got a feeling they won't lose today. I love Klopp, and I like Guardiola, but I love Klopp. He's entertaining, and the front three's good. And in a way, the Scousers are a little bit like us. So I've got an affection for perhaps Liverpool winning the title, but I've got a feeling that it's going to be City.
Great stuff, John. As always, a pleasure. And as I'm having another week break coming up starting on Saturday, we will be recording this week John's Dream Team, which I am really looking forward to. So that'll be coming up in 2 weeks' time. You'll be able to watch John's Dream Team. He's got some years to look back on as a fan and as a journalist. So prepare for some surprises, I guess. But looking forward to doing that. But you'll also be able to catch John live, as always, with his old pal Super Mac back on Thursday this week, and we'll be chewing the fat and looking ahead to the Leicester game. But John, have a good week, mate. Speak to you soon.
And to you. God bless. Thanks a lot, Steve.